Hello, and welcome to this online tutorial about reading and taking notes for your LEAP or EPQ academic assignment. During this tutorial, we will cover what we consider to be the three most important steps to effective reading and note-making, which are: Step 1. Establish your reading objectives. Step 2. Read actively. And Step 3. Decide on a helpful layout for your notes. So let's have a look at reading objectives and why they might be important. First of all, reading without objectives can lead us to waste time on less relevant material, cause us to feel worry and stress about the amount of reading we need to do, and make us misjudge the time we should be spending on different types of sources. On the positive side, if we adopt reading objectives, they can help us to make the most efficient use of the time that we have, make us feel less worried about the volume of reading by making sure we take control of it, and enable us to make better judgments about the different types of sources that we are using. So, adopting reading objectives appears to be a good idea. But how do we do this, and how do reading objectives work? The three main questions to ask yourself during this process in relation to a particular source are: why am I reading this? What do I want to get out of this source? And how much time will I need to spend on this? Let's have a look at these in a little more detail. For the first question, why am I reading this? Possible answers might include for general background to help me understand a topic, or for particular evidence to help me support a section of my assignment. Your answer to the question will help you to determine how best to approach the source and whether to make thorough or relatively brief notes. On to the second question. What do I want to get out of this source? Are you looking to make general notes to refer to later? Perhaps you're looking for particular facts or figures? Or are you looking for ideas or arguments to refer to within your assignment? Again, your answers to this question will help you to determine your strategy in approaching the source. And the third question, how much time will I need to spend on this? It is often very difficult to decide and estimate the optimal amount of time to spend with a source, but the following questions might provide you with some pointers. Ask yourself whether it is vital in relation to your understanding of the topic, or whether it is only relevant to a particular aspect. If it is core to your understanding, it is obviously important to devote an appropriate amount of time to read the source thoroughly. If the source refers to one aspect of the assignment, you might decide that you can be selective in how much of the source you read. So that was the first step, why establishing reading objectives is important, and some hints regarding how to do so. On to the second step, reading actively. What exactly do we mean by reading actively? The idea behind reading actively is that we put ourselves in charge of our reading, rather than letting the source dictate how we do so. The sources which you come across will not have been written with you or your particular purpose or assignment title in mind, so this makes perfect sense. So how do we do this in practice? The first thing which you might want to do is to make a list of questions which you would like answered in relation to a topic. This will provide you with a focus to your reading. Before you begin reading in detail, survey or pre-read the source. This might include looking at the introduction and conclusion, any tables, figures, or subheadings included, and even at the first sentence of each paragraph, to give you a bit more of an idea about the content and organisation of the source. You can then decide whether the source covers what you thought it did, and whether it makes sense to proceed and read it in detail. If you then go on to read in detail, you can use your prepared list of questions to look for relevant answers within the text. For every section that you read through, and you decide what constitutes a section, this might be a few paragraphs, a few pages, a chapter, and so on, put the source away and apply the tell a friend test to check your understanding. The tell a friend test is very simple. With the source out of sight, ask yourself whether you would be able to explain to a friend who is interested but unfamiliar with the topic what the extract is about. Explain the relevant concepts out loud if this helps. This should help to check your understanding and identify any gaps where you need to go back and reread, or perhaps consult another source. Once you are confident that you have a grip on the relevant issues, it's time for the third step, making appropriately organised notes. If at this stage any questions remain, remember to also note these down and seek further help. As I've already mentioned, the third step to effective reading and note-making is about deciding on the most appropriate layout for your notes, and, of course, producing them. So what are your options in terms of making notes? The main tip to keep in mind is that whatever layout you choose, the notes should reflect your own understanding and organisation of the material to suit your purposes. Once again, this means that you are in charge of the material rather than the other way around. There are a number of different note-making systems. Linear notes consist of sections and subsections, with further details added under each. Try to make use of numbering, bullet points, and diagrams if appropriate, to make your notes as organised, clear, and inviting as possible. With tabular notes, you complete a number of columns for each section, which should help you to ensure that you include certain features. Take a look at the tabular note-making template currently on the screen. We think it is particularly useful as it includes a column for the main points or arguments featured within a section, the evidence offered in support of those points or arguments, and a column for your own thoughts and reflections in relation to those. For example, you could use the final column to record whether you are convinced by the arguments and evidence, and why you agree or disagree with the source. You have very probably heard of mind maps, and that is the third and final note-making method covered during this tutorial. A mind map consists of the main topic listed in the centre, with different themes mapped around this, branching off into more detailed categories and points. So those are the three methods. Try and experiment with each one to see which one suits you. It might even be that you end up using a combination of methods or different methods for different purposes. Once again, these are initial ideas to get you started, and you will have to decide what works best for you. So, here's a summary of everything we have covered. The 3 steps to effective reading and note-making include: Step 1. Establishing your reading objectives. Ask yourself why you are reading a particular source, what you would like to get from it, and how much time you will need to spend with it. Step 2. Reading actively. Write down a list of questions that you would like answered in relation to a topic. Survey the source to establish whether it is relevant and you will need to read it in detail. If you choose to go on, look out for the answers to your questions whilst reading and apply the tell a friend test to check your understanding. And step 3. Decide on a helpful layout for your notes, whether linear, tabular, a mind map, or a combination of these. Ensure that your notes are clear, organised, and serve your purposes, rather than merely reflecting all of the content of a text. We hope that these tips will come in useful both when you are conducting research for your LEAP or EPQ academic assignment and in your future university career.